So we were at 400% yesterday. Now we're at 1,000. China is now willing to negotiate. The yuan has fallen to the lowest level in 18 years. I mean, this has been fucking insane, honestly. And I'll be kind of curious to see what happens with this. The art of the deal. Please briefly explain the art of the deal for idiots who don't understand how Trump operates, even after decades of him using the same strategy for everything. Okay, here are the key elements. Start with an extreme position to create room for compromise. Use attention-grabbing statements to control the narrative and put the other side on the defensive. Create a sense of urgency to pressure the other side into making concessions. Keep the other side guessing about your true intentions and bottom line. Be willing to walk away if the deal doesn't meet your standards. This is absolutely what's happened.
For years, we've been ripped off and taken advantage of by China and others, in all fairness, but by China, that's the big one. And it's just one of those things. You know, we're making $2 billion a day right now, this country. $2 billion a day with tariffs. And they were making $2 billion a day. We'll be making more. Now, when you see what happened today, I don't know if it's still there. You know, I looked an hour ago, but we're up like close to 3,000 points. Nobody's ever seen a day like that. I think that's a record, isn't it, fellas? Yeah, for is that a record? Who would have thought we were going to have a record like that after watching? But because the geniuses of the world, they get it. Our country is very strong. We were left a very, very weakened country.
By Joe Biden.
Both economically, financially, because of all of the tariffs and all of the other companies just raiding us and ripping us off.
And that's President Trump yesterday after issuing that 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs for some countries while keeping the 10% baseline tariff in place, while also raising the tariff on China to 125% effective immediately. The president said that was because of a lack of respect that Beijing has shown the world markets with its retaliation against the U.S. The president also told reporters he's still open to meeting with Xi Jinping.
No, of course he's going to talk to him. I mean, this is just something that's going to happen. Yeah, of course.
No, sure I would. He's a friend of mine. I like him. President Xi, I like him. I respect him. But they haven't treated our country right. Sure, I'd meet with him. On the other countries, we have Japan is here, and South Korea is here, and others are here. And we're trying to see him. It's from what I hear, it's much more than 75. I said 75 plus. So many. It's everybody wants to make a deal, actually. And, you know, we want to do what's right for our country. We also want to do what's right for the world. The world is important. I mean, you know, it's the world, right? And I think we're going to make a lot of people very happy. And I think investing in the United States of America will be the greatest investment that anybody's ever made.
That's pretty important.
The president keeping allies close with this new tariff plan. Joining me now is Gatestone Institute senior fellow and the author of Plan Red, China's project to destroy America. Gordon Chang back.
I wonder what his opinion's going to be.
With us. Gordon, great to see you. Your reaction to all that has taken place here. I don't know why Xi Jinping doesn't just pick up the phone and call President Trump and try to do a deal rather than back and forth with this retaliation.
Yeah. Picking up the phone and calling President Trump would be the economically rational thing to do. China absolutely needs to do that. But Xi Jinping has configured the Chinese political system so that only the most hostile answers are considered to be acceptable, which means he's boxed himself in. He can't do that because if he does that, his Communist Party...
He's going to look like a bitch. Yeah.
Fellow leaders, they're going to criticize him. So right now, China's in a position where it can't do what it absolutely needs to do.
And I think they're trying to pressure U.S. markets. When they saw the Politburo and Xi Jinping and his leadership team, when they saw the markets were down 2,000 points, 2 days in a row, trillions of market value lost, they tried to pile on. In fact, there was an issue yesterday in the bond market where rates were spiking. And I was questioning what's going on in the bond market today. Was it a trade gone wrong or is China selling treasuries? And I spoke with the Treasury Secretary about it. I asked Scott Bessent just that. Watch this.
There's one of these deleveraging convulsions that's going on right now in the markets, and I think it's in the fixed income market. There's some very large leverage players who are experiencing losses. They're having to deleverage. I believe that there is nothing systemic about this. I think that it is an uncomfortable but normal deleveraging that's going on in the bond market, and I expect that as we see the leverage come down, the risk managers tapping people on the shoulders, telling them to bring their books down, which is what happens every couple of years as leverage builds up, then the market will calm down.
Is China jumping treasuries to try to put pressure on this market?
Yeah, I think it works against their purposes if they are dumping treasuries.
Let's see where it's at right now. I'm actually kind of curious. It's at 39%, so it's pretty much about the same as it was. It's a little bit less than yesterday.
Because if they're dumping treasuries, then they have to buy something else. If they sell dollars,
it's not bonds. No, I understand he's talking about treasury yields and bonds. I was just looking at this number and I was thinking, I wonder if it's more or less than that now.
Strengthen their currency, and as I said earlier, they've actually been weakening their currency, which is a loser for everyone.
Right.
And again, when I hear all these stories, the dollar is no longer going to be the reserve currency. If you end up with the Chinese who are willing to use their currency as a trade tool, that doesn't seem like a very good reserve asset to me.
I was really happy to get the Secretary's commentary on the dollar, and he reiterated the U.S.'s position toward a strong dollar. But what do you think? I remember during the financial crisis back in 2007, China and Russia tried to team up, pile on, sell treasuries to pressure the market. So that immediately came to me when I saw that spike in rates yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's part of the answer of what the Chinese were doing, because they do want to put pressure on President Trump.
Yeah.
But the other thing, though, is, yes, they want their currency to weaken, but they don't want it to weaken too fast because they're worried about capital flight. So I think that they have to sell treasuries, dollar-denominated assets, to support the renminbi. But the thing that's really interesting, is that President Trump looks at this and says, I'm not afraid of you, China.
Yeah. He really did.
And the reason is, look, the Chinese don't have any cards in this. As the Treasury Secretary said, they're only holding a pair of twos, and Trump has a royal straight flush. But the point here, though, is that the Chinese think, well, we can intimidate Trump. We can coerce him into surrendering preemptively. And Trump yesterday said, look, 125% tariffs. I'm not being coerced. I'm not being intimidated. You, China, you're the ones who have to back down.
Yeah, and I love the fact that President Trump will always say...
Yeah, it's 145 now, by the way. So he's continuing to go. Yeah, he's keeping doing it. With no cards, yeah.
Things like, I want to meet him. He's my friend. We get along great. While at the same time is, putting 125% tariff on the country. He knows his customer in communist China. And the U.S. signed a new security and defense pact to reinforce control over the Panama Canal. Pete Hegseth down at the canal, the defense secretary, announced the pact during a joint press conference in Panama City yesterday. Watch this.
We also signed.
See, this is like another thing. I feel like very clearly Trump has been trying to take tactical moves to, weaken China. And he thinks China controls the Panama Canal, and so they're trying to weaken them there, too.
With the Minister of Canal Affairs...
Wait, it's 154% now?
...framework for U.S. military and auxiliary ships to travel through the Panama Canal first and free. We're working with them to ensure that we take back the canal from malign Chinese influence. And these two documents, I think, create a historic baseline and send a clear message to the region and the communist Chinese that America will stand by our allies, keep key terrain free, so that our ships, our military vessels, our auxiliary vessels are free to traverse anytime they need for any contingency around the world.
So
I mean, if we help build the fucking canal and we're having to pay to use it, fuck that. I'm just going to be honest, fuck that. Absolutely not.
Another
we didn't
thing.
help, we built it. I was trying to be diplomatic.
that China is upset about, that the U.S. is taking back the Panama Canal. And, you know, it seems to me that China's on its back heels right now. I mean, with all of these moves from President Trump, what do you think about the Chinese economy? What's the impact here?
Well, the Chinese economy is probably around zero. And we see from the price signals, it's in a deflationary spiral down, which is really inconsistent with 5.0% growth that they reported for last year. So this is coming at a time where China's having its 2008. In 2008, they didn't want to have a recession, so they overstimulated their economy. They've accumulated all this debt. They don't know what to do with it because this debt is internal, which means if you try to resolve it, local parties are going to get hurt. They don't have the political will to do that. They got their 2008. They got Trump on tariffs. They got deglobalization. This is all hitting China at the same time, and they have no answers to this in Beijing.
Yeah, and you would think that they would come back and try to, you know, schmooze Trump, try to get in his favor, but
I bet they're probably trying to do that privately. I feel like there's a very high probability they're trying to do that. Because, like, they don't... No way. Why not? Wouldn't you do that if you were them? Yeah, of course. Because the problem is the optics. It's not the outcome, it's the optics. Well, like you skeptics say no way to fucking everything? We would know from a tweet? Yeah, I guess so. Anyone else notice Trump dialed back all the hostile rhetoric about the rest of the world in the last 2 days? Well, yeah, of course. He always does that. It's that they're the worst people. It's the same as he called Gavin Newsom new scum over and over. And then when he started helping them at the wildfires and Gavin Newsom started playing ball with Trump, now he's not new scum anymore. He does that with everybody. Like, this is not really any sort of like a big secret.
He recognizes that they're in a weakened position, and that 125% tariff's only going to make things worse. We'll see if they blink, and who blinks first. South Korean officials are ready to talk about tariffs going down with the U.S. The country will hold snap elections in June, June 3rd, to choose the successor to former President Yoon Suk-yeol. He was ousted last year after briefly imposing.
He had a national level crash out where he just randomly decided to impose martial law. And everybody in South Korea was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you retard, like, get the fuck out of here. And that was about it, you know, like, then he was out of a job and that was it. Yeah, he had his gamer moment. And you got to remember, like, South Korea is pretty close to North Korea. So, like, they hear martial law, they're like, oh, not for me.
Imposing martial law in the country, sparking those protests and riots. Gordon, what do you think about this? You said democracy is at risk in this presidential election, and it could affect trade deals as well.
Yeah, the leading candidate for the June 3rd election is a guy named Lee Jae-myung. And Lee Jae-myung is basically a communist, although he can't say that because he's running for president. But the problem is he's very pro-China, very pro-North Korea, anti-U.S., anti-Japan.
I see.
And so we're in a risk here because South Korea could really go red very quickly.
Wow.
But the point is, on trade deals, you know, Yi doesn't like the United States, so he doesn't want a trade deal with the U.S. He wants to kick our troops off the peninsula. He called them an occupying force. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know, right now, things are very much at a point where this is the most important election in South Korea's history, June 3rd.
I'll tell you, what a difference this president and this administration is relative to the last one, where, you know, the Oversight Committee was investigating all the money that the Biden family took in from communist China.
Yeah, and that certainly affected Biden's decision. Biden certainly acted like he was afraid of China.
Yeah.
You know, this was really bad, and it was important for President Trump to win, you know, and this is November 5, I think, is going to be looked at as a turning point in American history. This is the golden age.
And I wonder...
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
If this whole time it was about China. that President Trump needed to put China in a corner, and he wanted to do so in tariffs, and all of this other drama around it was never the focus. I don't know. I'm beginning to see it that way. Gordon, it's great to see you.
I think there's a pretty high probability of that, especially considering the fact that he did the same thing with the Panama Canal. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to wait and see.
Hey, Kevin, what's your reaction to this now? It's not 125%.
So this might be a surprise, but the tariffs to China have gone up again. Now it's up to 145%.
It's 145%, the U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods.
Wow.
I've been an advocate for raising it to 400% in one move to force Xi to the table, because this narrative with China is not just about tariffs. Since China joined the WTO
400%
in 2020, or it's actually 2000, they have not abided by the rules in any single year. There is no way you can figure out or settle a trade dispute with them. Although they said they'd agree to do that, they never did. They have been constantly stealing American IP, including many from my companies. We have not been able to litigate there. There is no resolution available to us. They are using our financial markets. I have to compete with Chinese companies that don't abide by GAAP, listing on NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange for investors.
GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. So they're cooking the books, basically.
Dollars, and I am forced to comply, and they're not. They're allowed to use our legal system to sue me here in the United States. I can't do the same in China. So
you can see how that's obviously fucking unfair. They don't have to use the same accounting. They get to steal your shit, and you can't sue them, but they can sue you. I mean, really, like, what the fuck is going on here? Does that sound fair? I think it doesn't. It's obviously not fucking fair.
Just one hand. I put up my hand. I was testifying yesterday at the China hearings in Washington, and I said I've had enough. And I expect you, lawmakers, and the administration to finally go to task and settle this once and for all, because I don't care if it's 1,000% tariffs.
All right. So we were at 400% yesterday. Now we're at 1,000. Oh, shit. Wow.
They have to come to the table now and not just settle this trade.
Check the China Observer YouTube channel. Chinese are complaining about Xi Jinping's. Remind me about that after this.
War. They need to settle all of this.
Bro, actually, I don't know if I want to watch that, bro. Like, because if I watch that video, it gets popular. Would that be snitching them out? Bro, I would be like, would I be an accomplice at that point? Like, if I watch that. Ooh.
Unbalanced situation. We need, all of us, look, I have nothing against the Chinese people. I love the Chinese people, all of their contributions to culture.
Nobody hates Chinese people generally, except for a few racist assholes, okay? Everybody's complaint is with their government. We know that most of the people in China are nice, good people. It's the same as in America or any other fucking country.
Over the millennia is well documented. It's the government. They cheat, they steal, they don't play by the rules, and I've had enough. And so I would like this thing worked out. I don't care about the volatility. I don't care if Trump ratchets it up 25% a day.
What do you mean? Wait, Kevin, what do you mean you don't care about volatility if volatility has a direct impact on us as the consumers?
You fucking retard. It already is having an effect on you. It's already negatively affecting you, but because it's happening in an abstract and you don't have it quantified in a number that's directly in front of you, you think that it's not happening. It's been happening for years. It's been going on for years. And this is the thing. It's like, oh, well, what about right now? Yes, wow, what a great argument. Let's slowly let this negative thing get worse rather than trying to solve it now. What a ridiculous thing to say. This is why, by the way, as long as the stock markets are going up, any argumentation and basically people will support the China tariffs to the extent that the stock market doesn't go down massively.
have to fix this problem once and for all. It's killing us. It's killing small business in America. It's killing large businesses.
Yeah.
All the IP these guys steal. You go back and look at all of their technological advancements, and this is a personal estimation. You're going to find source code from American companies back 4 decades ago.
Genshin Impact and Breath of the Wild look pretty similar. The games looked they looked really close together. One game looked a lot like the other game.
These guys don't play by the rules. And administration after administration, whether it be European or American, have not dealt with this. It's enough. We've got to solve this problem.
Okay.
Now, if we have to squeeze Chinese heads to the wall, as I said yesterday when I was testifying, so be it. I'm willing to live with the volatility to get the long situation settled. I want to compete in China. I want to open up those markets.
If what you're saying is carried out to its ultimate solution,
yes,
you're talking about the fact that China, the regime, has a system in place that is able to manipulate the world, its currency, and everything else because of its totalitarian nature. Now, we can talk about what happened in 48. We can talk about what happened with Taiwan. We can talk about everything else. But Kevin, it's a reality. The Cultural Revolution in China killed millions of people so that people would remember that they had to remain silent.
So
what you're saying is, I've had enough
you're
with
happy
China,
with this?
but
You're good with it?
No,
you're okay with it?
yeah. See, the way that you break that is you destroy the economy that enables it. Because the only reason why that happens is because the people there are living in relatively good status. That's the reason why people put up with it.
Oh, no. On the contrary, but what I'm asking you is, what is the solution to dealing with China, a system that systematically violates human rights?
Here's how
and
it
that
works.
is able to use...
Well, you asked me, I'm going to
works,
tell
right?
you. You got Xi.
Okay.
He's the supreme leader for life. What keeps him in power?
Yes.
Keeping his people employed and fed. Now,
That's
when
right.
you shut down a factory, I think Janice Mackey-Frere just on before me, he's talked about this. When you shut down a factory, you put thousands, if not tens of thousands of people unemployed in China.
That's right.
They take burning torches, just like in a Frankenstein movie, up to the castle, and that's a bad outcome for the supreme leader. He knows that. Now, what's the largest consumer market on earth? The United States.
That's right. That's right. He can't keep it up for too long. Exactly. They do what? Absolutely they do.
It's almost 40% of all goods consumed worldwide. What's the largest GDP? 25 or 26% GDP of the world? The United States of America. China needs the United States of America. We have the upper hand right now. We have the cards. Now's the time to settle this because we may not be the largest economy forever, but right now we can squeeze Chinese, and I'm talking about the government, not the people, to comply with the laws and get a level playing field between China and the United States of America. If it takes a little volatility, a little indigestion, a little acid reflux, I don't care. I want this thing worked out now because I can show you countless occurrences of where I have backed, as an investor, a company that gets to $5 million in sales with a consumer good or service on
It gets
Amazon.
stolen by China, then they just start reselling it under the same name or a similar name.
On Alibaba, and then as soon as it hits 5 million, it's knocked off. They steal the IP, they manufacture it there, they sell it back into this market. I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with that anymore.
That's the nature of the...
That's right. Yep, there it is. And countless examples throughout history. It's happened before. Yeah. Imagine how swift and profound the world would flourish if China and the America open to each other. Well, I feel like, again, it would be better for us if they just weren't stealing our shit. I mean, I think that's really where the problem is. I mean, I feel like that's obviously what the issue is. So, yeah. We spent billions on hip research and they stole it? Yeah, of course. So, like, if you have people that systematically steal
Kevin,
your shit, if they keep stealing your shit and then they keep trying to resell it back at a much lower rate, is this really free trade? Is this what's in the best interest of the people that are here? I personally don't fucking think so. And I think that they always like making this argument like, oh, well, what about the little guy? Well, the little guy is the one that's getting their stuff stolen. A $5 million company is actually very small. You might think that it's big because it sounds like $5 million, but whenever you take in operating capital and the amount of money and revenue, and then it's not like a $5 million company is not making $5 million a year in profit. That's not the way that it works. So yeah, espionage, yeah, but it brings competition. It doesn't really, there's no competition when it's asymmetrical. So basically, whenever you have to compete with ankle weights and then the other person doesn't, the other person is going to, like, that's not a competition. Like, there's no competition at all. What the fuck do you think Walmart and Target do to the little guy? Well, they have to follow the United States law with copyright. What do you mean? So Walmart and Target, what they do to the little guy is they come into a space and they beat these smaller companies and these smaller, like, let's say grocery stores or like, you know, like small stores. They beat them by simply having a product at a lower price. That's a totally different dynamic than taking the products that they're making and then making cheap versions of them, violating the intellectual copyright, and then selling them as if they're the original product. That's a totally different thing. Like, yeah, they beat them on volume. Exactly. And so, yeah, that's capitalism versus theft. I know it's crazy that people are even saying this. Patent, not copyright. Good point. You're right about that. It's patent, but not copyright, at least in most cases. The company I work for did a cooperation with a Chinese company during the Olympics. Fast forward to today, and they're our biggest competition, selling copies for less money. How convenient for them. And so, yeah, I can easily see that. Let me see if the China Observer. Holy shit. Uh-oh. Wow.
你担心诚信，我们比你更担心。
I woke up and all our orders were gone. Because of these new tariffs from the U.S., every American client is telling us to pause production and delay our plans.
Wow.
This is a mess.
There's a video showing how bad things have gotten. It's like the sky has fallen. Orders were canceled because of the U.S. tariffs. Warehouses are packed with unsold products, and the factory floor is basically just being cleaned now, with no real work happening. Ever since Trump raised tariffs, businesses in mainland China have been feeling the chill. Even though CCP General Secretary Xi Jinping talks tough about retaliating against Trump's tariffs, the truth is the Chinese government doesn't care about how much regular people are losing. And
that's exactly true. And I think that once the people there realize that, they're going to be really fucking upset. That's very dangerous for them. And this admin does. They do, but our quality of life will not be as negatively impacted as theirs. So, like, basically, this is the way it is that you can take advantage of people and you can make their lives worse slowly. But if there's, like, a big decrease, like, for example, COVID, then people lose their minds.
Back will only bring even harsher responses. America, as the buyer, is the one setting the rules.
Yeah, of course.
If the seller tries to challenge them, they'll lose badly, ending up with nothing. On April 8th, U.S.
There he is.
President Trump officially signed an executive order to raise tariffs on Chinese goods to 104%.
Guys, do you remember back whenever it was only 104%? Those were the days.
They will be going into effect at 12:01 a.m.
Good
tonight,
times,
so
huh?
effectively tomorrow. Yes.
That 104% rate is now in effect.
China cracked down on influencers who were flaunting wealth during economic downturn because they feared regular people getting upset about the wealth inequality in China. Yeah, I think that any sort of a totalitarian state and any sort of an oppressive government is generally a house of cards. And if enough wind blows, the whole thing falls down. And, like, that's how you have... And a lot of these governments, I've seen this happen a lot, is that it seems like nothing is happening, and then it's seemingly overnight, everything changes. And I think that's what could theoretically happen. That's guys when I was talking about something I has no idea about. If you want to... If you want to argue, that's totally fine. But saying that, like, I'm wrong, I don't know what I'm talking about, everything's fake, you ban our crap all the time, what are you saying? Biggest companies operate in China? Well, they operate in China because they have to. And they also operate in China at a weakness. They're not stealing anything. So if they're not, so let me ask you something. If they're not stealing anything, then why do you have all these American business owners saying that they're stealing things? Do you think that they're all just collectively lying? And how do you explain why there are video games made in China that seemingly copy video games made in other countries? How do you reconcile that? Like Apple getting their iPhone stolen? Well, yeah, Apple does have to give away any sort of like trade secrets or anything like that in order to do business in China. That's one of the criteria. And on top of that, they have to be partnered with a company that's in China, and every company that's in China needs to have connections to the government. Like which one? Which one? Okay. All right, I'll give you an example. Blizzard went over to China, and they had to have a partner, and that partner was NetEase. The partnership with NetEase went away, and Blizzard could no longer offer their services in China. There's an example. Is that enough, or now do you want another one? So WoW was stolen? Yeah, absolutely. What I'm saying, what are they copying? Oh my God. I just gave you an example. No, it wasn't. There was no Chinese WoW running, bro. What the fuck? Oh my God. Are you serious, bro? Are you being serious right now? There's no WoW Chinese being done. There are tons of games in China that have shamelessly and obviously ripped off World of Warcraft. They actively use Warcraft models. They use the NPCs that are shifted maybe 5%, and sometimes not even that. They're being sold, and it's not called World of Warcraft. It's called World of War or some other variant of that. Terrasland is another good example of this. There are tons of games that come out in China that are made to mirror other games in other markets that they then try to do at a much lower rate. And this is not something that's just with video games. Like, I don't know. I think that really you should go and look this up and decide it for yourself. If it was copied, you have to have exact private server of WoW. A shameless copy, sure. They're not. Okay, so it's a shameless copy, right? Okay, so now we've arrived at the same conclusion. Yes, okay, well, they do copy it. All right, well, there we go. Multiple high-profile cases. And so this is another good example. I don't know really a lot about this. 2018 indictment of state-owned company Fujianhua for stealing trade secrets from the U.S. semiconductor firm. Similarly, Huawei has faced allegations of IP theft from American companies like T-Mobile and Cisco. Yeah, I mean, how many examples do you need? Marvel Rivals is a good example. I don't think Marvel Rivals is a good example personally, but yeah, there's no copying. They're not copying. They're shameless copies. Yeah, exactly. They didn't steal it. They just copied it.
Has vowed to fight to the end in this trade war, but the real tariff rate is even higher because this 104% is on top of the 20% already in place from Trump's first term. That means the average tariff on Chinese goods is now close to 125%. One man in China posted a video calling on the Chinese people and the government to stay clear-headed. With tariffs going up like this, he advised they shouldn't go head-to-head.
This is another thing, is that I think a lot of people in China, like, this is, again, this is something like I have observed, but I'm not really an expert in. I've never been to China. A lot of the people in China, I feel like, and the way that I've observed, especially over the last 20 years, have been tremendously enjoying the benefits of like some degree of capitalism. Like, the quality of life has gone up massively. The amount of technology in that country has gone up incredibly. And so these people have tasted what it's like to live the good life. I think if China tries to take that away from them, they're going to lose their fucking minds. I would be fucking furious.
With the U.S., otherwise they'd be gambling with people's livelihoods.
These past couple days, I've had enough. Stop talking about fighting the U.S. over tariffs like it's some action movie. Yep. Acting tough is a dead end. Making money is what actually matters. The U.S. has...
There's going to be more and more people that think that. Yep.
350 million people and takes up a third of global consumer orders. Think about that.
So we're at, like, the U.S. is a third of all global consumer orders? Holy fuck. That's a lot. That's an ass load.
Out of every $3 spent around the world, one comes from the U.S. The EU has 450 million people, but their purchasing power is nowhere close to America.
The reason why is because America's the best. Europe's okay. But we all know. Everybody knows this.
Because we've got one...
By the way, I always find this to be very funny because almost everybody, a lot of people from America are from Europe, but, you know. So I just ignore that.
1.4 billion people in China working ourselves to the bone. But our spending power is only about 1/5 of America.
This is another component too that I think is also like, and this is again like I don't know this firsthand. I'm just looking at this secondhand. Is that the Chinese work culture is like fucking brutal. It's absolutely fucking brutal. And because of that, I think you're seeing, I'm going to move this up so you guys can read the subtitles.
Because the numbers don't lie. Cursing the U.S. for being a bully doesn't put food on the table. The U.S. dollar is still the passport to the global market.
That's right.
Everyone's shouting about how we don't need the American market. Wake up. The American market is valuable. Numbers speak louder than slogans. Instead of shouting about resistance, we should be thinking about how to make money within the existing rules. When your wallet is full of U.S. dollars, then you can talk about upgrading industries or ditching the dollar. Until then, it's all just talk. Lower your head, make money, it's not shameful. Betting ordinary people's lives on pride, that's the real stupidity.
A business owner.
I think there's a lot of people that are going to feel that way. And I think that the longer the tariffs keep up, the more people are going to feel that way. I think also the internet gives... I feel like the internet is a massive ability. Like, obviously, my understanding is like China, like it's against the law to use a VPN, but it's against the law to use VPN in the same way that it's like against the law to smoke weed here, where it's like it's against the law, but everybody does it anyway. A lot of these people are on the internet. They're on Western internet. They're seeing what everybody else is seeing.
In Tangshan, Hebei, tried to fight back using what you'd call mental victory tactics. He put up a big sign on the screen in his shop. It said, "Starting today, we will charge American customers an extra 104% service fee. If you don't understand, please contact the U.S. Embassy." A netizen hit him with the perfect response. "Dude, do you even have any American customers?" And the boss said, "Nope."
So they're just trying to put on. They trying to put on, and I get it, right? You trying to put on, you're not trying to look like a bitch? Absolutely. I totally understand.
So how is that retaliation? On the evening of April 8th, U.S. time, after announcing a 104% tariff on Chinese imports, Trump attended the National Republican Congressional Committee's President's Dinner and accused the Chinese Communist Party of manipulating currency to offset the impact of tariffs. As
they've been talking about this forever.
U.S.-China trade war intensifies, Beijing let the yuan fall to a historic low of 7.4 against the dollar on April 8th, something it hadn't done in 19 months. This was the lowest...
Again, I want to remind you guys that constantly sitting in my chat and just saying, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. If you want to add something to the conversation, do it. But that's not adding anything. You're just wasting space.
Rate since September 2023. For a long time, investors considered 7.2 to be a soft bottom line that China would not let the currency fall below. According to the Financial Times, China's central bank set the exchange rate right at 7.2 the following Tuesday, basically signaling that they're willing to let the yuan drop further in order to cushion the blow from U.S. tariffs. Wen Lucheng posted on Facebook that Trump has made his position very clear. If the Chinese government doesn't back down, he won't just refuse to negotiate, he'll double down. This isn't a negotiation.
No, he's gonna do that again. He's gonna keep doing it over and over and over. Like, the thing is, and also, I think a lot of people in the U.S. support him for doing this. And now I think that Trump needs to do, this is something that I think Trump needs to do a better job at. Trump needs to do a better job at communicating what he feels are the unfair trade practices of China in a way that is concise and easy to understand. Because like it's a messaging problem. And like this is the same type of messaging problem the government had with COVID. But like this, it's different, but it's the same, right? Where it's like, yeah, COVID is like this big issue and we want people to do this stuff. But if you're not able to like explain it in a way that the public understands and can respect, then you're going to get a lot of resentment and distrust.
Anymore. It's an ultimatum. In reality, it's more like a declaration of economic war. Wen said that if China backs down now, it could trigger a wave of nationalism at home and seriously challenge Xi Jinping's legitimacy. So
of course. Yeah, everybody thinks like, again, these big totalitarian governments are houses of cards. And I think that people usually don't even realize it until after it's over.
Chinese government is probably trying to figure out how much of a hit they can take from these 100% tariffs, and whether they can use domestic consumption or third-party markets to make up for the export losses. As long as things hold up inside China, they might just keep pushing through. On April 4th, Trump announced reciprocal tariffs on countries around the world. While roughly 70 countries rushed to negotiate and avoid damage to their own people, the Chinese...
This is the reason why. And this is going to be, again, this is the main reason why Trump can double down on China, is because everybody else roached out. Is like if you have to deal with like over 70 other countries and China, it's a lot harder. Like you think about like militarily. Like Hitler and Napoleon. Two people lost wars by trying to fight on multiple fronts. If you go through history, how many empires, how many wars, how many groups of people end up losing wars because they're fighting on multiple fronts?
Chinese government chose to retaliate with a 34% tariff on U.S. goods.
But Trump didn't do that? No, he didn't. He did not. Because the other countries are coming to the table and they want to negotiate a deal. Which means that the tariffs on them at least won't happen for another 3 months. So he has a 3-month runway to be as aggressive as possible with the tariffs towards China to hopefully push them to come to the table. And that's assuming that the trade deals and everything with those other 70 countries don't turn out in a good way.
And vowed to fight the U.S. to the end. On April 7th, Trump warned that if China doesn't roll back these retaliatory tariffs, he'd slap another 50% tariff on top of what was already announced by April 9th. That would be a record high. And China didn't back down. On April 7th, the Chinese state media People's Daily published an article titled "The Sky Won't Fall," saying that U.S. tariffs won't crush China's economy, and that China has the confidence and ability to handle external shocks. The article kept repeating, "The sky won't fall." But the stock market...
Just keep saying it. Guys, it's fine. Guys, look, everything's okay. Don't worry.
Didn't agree. Chinese A-shares plummeted after the announcement, like the sky was really falling. Right before Trump announced the additional 50% tariffs, a WeChat public account with ties to the Chinese government called Niu Tanqing published a piece on April 8th saying China was ready to hit back with at least 6 major countermeasures. 1. Massively increasing tariffs on American soybeans, sorghum, and other agricultural goods. China views this as a response to U.S. bullying. 2. Banning American poultry imports. Due to frequent bird flu outbreaks in the U.S., some in China are urging a total ban to protect public health. 3. Suspending fentanyl cooperation. The article claimed that the U.S. has ignored China's humanitarian efforts and instead smeared and blamed China. So the foundation for cooperation on fentanyl has been badly damaged.
So, wait a minute. The logic is that the U.S. thinks that China is letting fentanyl come into the country. So the solution is for China to just let fentanyl come into the country? Like, I I don't know, guys.
4. Countermeasures in service trade. This includes restricting American companies from participating in government procurement and legal consulting in China. Since the U.S. has a big surplus in service exports to China, this would directly hurt U.S. interests. 5. Banning American movies. Sources say China is considering.
This is the worst one. There's a lot of people in China that like watching American movies. So you're going to punish everybody in the country. They're not able to watch the Avengers because of some bullshit trade war. They're going to be pissed. Look at what happened whenever we tried to ban TikTok. How many kids lost their fucking mind? Yeah, now they won't be able to watch the new Snow White.
Reducing or outright banning U.S. film imports in response to the rising tariff threats. 6. Investigating intellectual property profits made by U.S. companies in China. Chinese authorities might launch investigations into the large profits American firms make off their IP in China. But the man we met earlier had something else to say.
Uh-oh.
You try selling to Southeast Asia and you're getting paid in Indonesian rupiah. You sell in South America, you're getting pesos. In a blink, currency exchange rates eat up your profits. But when you sell to the US, you're getting US dollars, money you can spend anywhere in the world.
That's right.
Look at the Russia-Ukraine war. No matter how bad that got, the US dollar still sits on top as the king of global currencies. That's just the reality. If you walk away from the dollar system, you're basically giving up your ticket to participate in global trade.
Oh, man. Yeah, is this guy in prison? Yeah, I feel bad watching this video, bro. This guy's good. Yeah, we're roaching him out.
People talk about shifting to Africa or Latin America, but come on. Our brothers in Africa don't...
That's the thing, is that they can't ship to these other... The reason why is, like, America is, like, comparatively small in terms of population, but you can't just go ship. Our brothers in Africa don't even have steady electricity. How are they supposed to buy your appliances? They don't have the fucking money. They can't buy it in the first place. Discord EU's taking a share. And now massive outages? Yeah, I know. I've seen that before.
Even have steady electricity. How are they supposed to buy your appliances?
Yeah.
Only the U.S. has 300 million middle-class consumers ready to pay cash. No games, no credit delays. Even with the sanctions these past couple of years, it's still the cleanest, most straightforward market in the world. Compared to all the places where you have to bribe or beg just to do business, the U.S. is like a commercial paradise.
See, that's another thing, too, is that, like, I mean, I don't really know about this that much, but I've heard that in a lot of other places in the world, not everything's above the board. And I bet we probably do a little bit of that, too. We probably have a little bit of shenanigans going on. But over there, it seems a lot worse.
Thing you have to remember, capital is 10,000 times smarter than you. The reality is, if you're cut off from the U.S., the world's main consumption engine, your products won't even have the chance to lose money just for exposure. Relying on Russia or Iran, those countries are barely staying afloat by selling off their own resources. It's...
Man. Yeah, they think they're just going to go sell it to fucking Russia. Yeah, exactly. What are they going to buy it with? USA double points? Yeah, this is the thing. We have the leverage? Yeah, of course. Absolutely, we have the leverage. The thing is that if you're in a position to... if you're in a position to leverage and work in your own best interest, you always should do that.
Easy to bash U.S. Hegemony, but hard to face reality. In the global industrial chain, whoever has the buying power is king. The U.S. holds just 5% of the world's population, but drives a third of global consumption. That is absolute market dominance.
And also, like, another component there that's like this is like a second order effect of that discrepancy, is that if you only have to market to 5% of the population, but you hit a third of the market, think about how much cheaper marketing and advertising costs are at that rate. It's like basically like you're taking a shot and like, you know, there's a flock of birds. And if there's one bird, well, it's hard to hit one bird. But if there's 10 birds, maybe you might hit another one. Yeah, just give a hint. Yeah, and again, this is like the second order effects and like how this stuff becomes multiplicatively more expensive. Yeah, 3x multiplier, exactly.
April 8th, veteran U.S.-based journalist Wang Fei posted on X, "What's the CCP going to do now? If they drop the tariffs, what happens to their pride? And for the CCP, pride equals the authority of their rule. Lose that, and regime instability follows. But if they..."
I don't think people are going to be having a whole lot of pride if they can't afford the shit that they used to have. You talk a lot about pride, but the moment that you can't afford movies, you can't afford games, you can't live the capitalist lifestyle that they've enjoyed, I think that pride goes away. It's pretty fucking fast, too. They have no choice? Yeah.
Don't drop the tariffs, U.S.-China...
Keep in mind, also, pride is it's one of the 7 deadly sins. It's not good. It's not a good thing to have that.
Trade grinds to a halt, and the Chinese economy plunges into negative growth overnight. Again, regime instability. This is what you call lose your head if you go forward, lose your head if you turn back.
Yeah.
Dong Jielin, a scholar of China's tech industrial policy and former columnist for Wall Street Journal's Chinese edition, also weighed in on X. He said, "What started as a global trade war led by the U.S. has now quickly turned into a U.S.-China trade war. According to Dong, the consequences for China could include 1. China's massive...
Yeah, Trump shifting it to just being a war against China directly with trade. Like, I would say that this is pretty much the best possible outcome for him. Like, I don't know what you guys think about it, but in terms of like a spectrum... this is pretty much the best possible outcome because he's gotten a bunch of other smaller countries to come to the table and give deals that are even more advantageous to us. And also he's using that as leverage to double down on the people that are the least advantageous.
Trade surplus of over $1 trillion US, no matter which countries it comes from, is mostly tied directly or indirectly to the US. That surplus will basically be wiped out. 2. China's current industrial overcapacity needs to be cut in half. When that bubble bursts, the impact could be just as devastating as the collapse of the real estate sector. 3. Massive job losses and serious threats to social stability.
See, yeah, people start losing their jobs, people aren't going to be able to afford shit, and they're going to be really upset.
All the international frameworks China has invested in, like the Belt and Road Initiative, BRICS, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, are filled with partners mostly looking to profit off China. Once the benefits disappear, so will those partners. He Bin, former deputy director at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences Public Policy Research Center, criticized the CCP strategy on social media. He said, "These are totally wrong countermeasures. It's like saying, if you dare hit your wife, I'll hit my wife." He added, "If the U.S. is hurting itself with higher tariffs, that's its business, but we shouldn't be hurting ourselves too."
This is the logic that I think a lot of people are realizing, is that if tariffs are actually just you kicking yourself in the dick, why is everybody saying if you kick yourself in the dick this hard, we're going to do it even harder? It seems kind of confusing. U.S. consumption's 15%, not 33%. Why are you spamming that? You've spammed too many times. You're permanent. Yep. This is permanent. Again, like we have a very, very easy policy here. I feel like it's very, very, very easy to have these conversations, not have issues. But there's some people that don't get it, and if you don't get it, you just get perma. Don't give a fuck.
Financial scholar Fu Peng put it another way. Trump's reciprocal tariffs are like a buyer gathering supplies for negotiations. If a supplier flips the table and walks out, they're just giving up the opportunity to bid, and they'll be kicked out of the supply chain.
Yep.
But Fu's comments appear to have been deleted. Even the European...
Somebody got to check up on our boy. Man.
Union is stepping in with a warning. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen told Beijing on April 8th that the dispute must be resolved through negotiation and warned against any further escalation. In her call with Chinese Premier Li Qiang, they discussed setting up a mechanism to monitor potential trade diversion and ensuring appropriate responses. The EU is particularly concerned that China might start dumping cheap goods originally meant for the US into the European market instead. Li Qiang defended China's retaliatory measures and called the U.S.
And that's going to cause more problems with them in Europe. And that's going to create like a whole separate issue. They're going to be selling it for way less money. They're going to lose tons of money, profit. Yeah, that's going to fuck up EU. That's going to turn, and again, think about again the second order effect of that. Then that's going to make Europe upset at China. Now China is antagonizing and fighting a war on two fronts, where it's not just against America, now it's also against Europe. You see how this happens?
Tariffs a form of economic bullying. So, are U.S. tariffs a form of bullying?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Now, I would say also, I mean, again, I think that they've had like unfair trade practices in a lot of cases. So it's like we're bullying them with the tariffs, but I think that they were bullying us with the way that they like, you know, oh, you have to be connected to, you know, a Chinese company, and Chinese companies have to be connected with the Chinese government, and you have to give away your source code for things that you sell here. Like all this kind of stuff. Yeah, stealing the IP, exactly. So like it's really one wrong turn deserves another.
The White House's official X account emphasized that the U.S. is open to negotiate with countries willing to engage fairly, but will not back down from those who have exploited the country in the past and now seek revenge. Business professor Xie Tian at the University of South Carolina explained that Trump isn't against international trade. Tariffs are just a tool to stop the U.S. from being taken advantage of. He said many countries understand that they've benefited disproportionately from trading with America, so now the smart move is to negotiate and lower tariffs. That way, they might profit less, but they'll still keep access to the U.S. market. This trade war, Xie said, is aimed squarely at the Chinese Communist Party to wipe out its massive annual trade surplus with the U.S. Currently, China runs a global trade surplus of about $1 trillion, while the U.S. carries a global trade surplus of up to $1.2 trillion U.S. dollars.
That's a lot. And do keep in mind, an eye for an eye leaves the world blind. That's true. But at the same time, whenever you're negotiating with people that are aggressive, sometimes it's important to make sure that they know if you take out my one eye, I'm willing to take out everybody else's too. And I think that that type of destructive negotiating, it might sound dangerous, but it's really fucking effective. Because people are like, some people can't afford to lose that.
Bulk of that global trade surplus ends up in China, directly or indirectly. Commentator Gu Cheng argued that Trump's tariffs aren't just about fixing the trade imbalance, they're about restoring America's industrial dominance, which the U.S. held in the World War II era, but gradually lost due to decades of appeasement policies toward China. He said that dominance was hollowed out by the CCP through unfair competition and industrial espionage. But, Gu added...
This is the same shit, right? About how they steal in people's stuff, then resell it? Exactly.
Even though China has grown into a manufacturing powerhouse through these unfair methods, the CCP's authoritarian system and state-led economic model are fundamentally unsustainable. Now, with U.S. tariffs pressing down,
the House of Cards.
The regime is caught in a prisoner's dilemma. Trump's tariff war is more than just a trade dispute. It's an economic hot war that can shape the future of both countries. As tensions rise, the U.S. and China are headed for a hard decoupling in both the economic and tech sectors. In the end, it will come down to public opinion, national morale, and which political system proves stronger. It was, in fact, American business tycoons and tech elites who, over the past few decades, poured massive investments into China, helping the Chinese Communist Party grow stronger, only now to turn around and see it bite the very hand that fed them. Yep. Commentator Gu Cheng remarked, the pain we're now seeing isn't caused by Trump's tariffs. It's the inevitable cost of recovery for an American economy that's been deeply infiltrated by the CCP. Stripping that influence...
People think that the CCP has a lot of control in the U.S. government in general. Why do so many people think it's on the U.S. to lay down and take it out the backside on behalf of EU or China? The reason why, it's actually really simple. It's because the people that are saying that hate the United States. There's a huge contingency of people that live here in the U.S. that hate their own country. That's it. And like, you know, from my mindset, this is what I think. I mean, I really, you know, there's a few of these countries that, like, I really am envious of them, right? Like China, you know, another one is Brazil, Spain. Like, these people love their fucking country. Like El Salvador now. Like, they love their fucking country. They're so fucking supportive, right? And, man, I wish we had that. I do. But again, if you want to tell if a protest is in America or not, if there's a bunch of different random flags, it's probably in America. If it's in another country, then it's probably a bunch of flags from that country. You're wrong about Spain? Really? Okay, well then maybe I got the wrong impression, but I sure feel like that seeing the way that they support their creators online.
Out is painful but necessary. China's nearly $1 trillion trade surplus in 2024 is almost entirely linked to the U.S., either directly or indirectly. Now, Trump's tariff hammer has blocked that channel. For an economy so reliant on exports, this spells economic collapse for the CCP. Gu asked, with the economy in this shape, taking on Trump's tariffs head-on, where exactly is Xi Jinping getting his courage from? Maybe it's the spirit of the Korean War revival, another battle of Chosin Reservoir in the making, but this time fought on the economic front in the 21st century. And the cannon fodder? Millions of struggling Chinese, small business, and the unemployed, soon to become the frozen corpses of Xi's new era trade war.
Yeah, this is probably not going to last. As I said, I mean, these people are used to having smartphones. Like we just saw, you know, speed in China. I mean, China is looking amazing. They've got incredible places there. Do you think these people want to go back to how it was? Fuck no, they don't want to go back to how it was. Absolutely fucking not.
So, how is the CCP actually trying to communicate with the U.S.? According to a Wall Street Journal article by Ling Wei, early in Trump's second term, Beijing made multiple attempts to establish communication channels with Washington, but they got nowhere. Now, with Trump announcing a 34% tariff on Chinese goods, Beijing is
34? I don't know about that.
Reportedly in shock.
Yeah.
The door to dialogue has slammed shut, replaced by anger and helplessness. The article notes that Xi Jinping's team, which had once swaggered in talks with the Biden administration, has lost all its confidence. Even though Trump has said he's open to reaching a deal, China's diplomatic efforts, whether through Foreign Minister Wang Yi at the United Nations or Commerce Minister Wang Weitao's letters, have all been met with silence. Xi's team has been shut out again and again by the Trump camp. Even Wall Street has stopped acting as the go-between. Chinese ambassador to the U.S. Xie Feng tried to reach out to Trump advisor Elon Musk, but got nowhere. The back channels that used to work
should have played PoE.
Have almost entirely dried up. Wei reports that one reason for this breakdown was a preliminary...
Can you imagine? Just imagining Elon streaming PoE. And like one of these guys DMing him, hey, it's me from the Chinese embassy. Can you please fucking respond? We're trying to call and contact you, but there's no way to talk to you. Please respond. We're trying to fix the trade deficit.
Phone call in late January between Wang Yi and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
Rubio, a longtime China hawk and one of the officials sanctioned by Beijing, was reportedly told by Wang to watch herself. A source familiar with the situation said, Wang brought that on himself. That's one reason he's now shut out from any meetings. At this point, the window for any form of dialogue between the two countries is rapidly closing.
There's not, no. They're going to figure it out. Like, I think this is really what's going to happen, is that you're probably going to have a few more days of brinkmanship, and then maybe a bit of a, like, kind of stalemate. Then they'll probably resolve it. That's what I think is probably going to happen. I think China will fold too. And I think that they will, I think Trump will be willing to take a couple of concessions so China can feel like they're not losing face. But ultimately, we will be in a more advantageous position. I feel like that's probably what's going to happen, because again, like if I was Trump, that's what I would do. And I feel like that's a smart thing to do. China's pride is a big factor, though. I know. And he's going to have to let China get a couple of wins. And it would be better for everybody if they do. It would create a lot of lingering animosity if he doesn't. I think that it would not be surprising if Trump let them have a couple of wins. It's okay. That way you can, lose with a degree of dignity. You can move back. We can resolve things, and things are better for us. They're better for you, and everything's fine. I doubt that. I don't. That's the pragmatic, effective way of doing it. Why? Because it would work, I think. We want to humiliate the CCP. I don't think that you'll need to. Yeah, I don't think the collapse of the CCP, Trump will. Trump is going all the way. You think Trump is going to try to collapse the CCP? I don't think he's going to try to do that. Yeah, I don't think so. It's too risky, and I don't think he's going to do that. And I think also it depends on like calibration. Like if Trump can calibrate the current government to work in his best interest, then why would he want to change the current government? You see what I'm saying? Like it's not really, and also again, like if he was a first-term president and it looked like he was going to for sure already win his second term, then I think maybe that would happen. But Trump knows that he's on a timeline, and obviously, after 4 years, realistically, he's probably going to be out of office. And so that probably, that would be another Cold War. And I don't think that he's going to collapse the CCP overnight. This is something that would probably take 10 years, if not longer. Trump can't collapse the CCP. I think the U.S. could. I think the U.S. could if we treated them the same way that we did with Russia, and if we were able to consolidate trading partners with Europe. Yeah, absolutely, they could negatively affect China. Absolutely. Like Iran? Well, maybe. Yeah, we'll see what happens. You're coolest, bro? Okay. I mean, I just want to say that, by the way, people say that I'm wrong about this. Everything I've said about this so far, I've been right about. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't like trying to prove it to people. I'm just going to say wait and see. Let's just wait and see. And then I get to get another one of the clips where,
As for how this tariff war ends, we'll have to wait and see. But judging from how the CCP now appears like a headless chicken, flailing and unable to respond to Trump's aggressive tactics, and how Trump has warned that he'll terminate all discussions that take place, and Trump's warnings, the writing seems to be on the wall. The CCP is headed toward total defeat.
Yeah, I think that, again, there are people who are going to be fucking furious about this. And so, yeah, I didn't realize this is the way that that people over there felt. I mean, obviously, this is going to be like one viewpoint, but yeah, seems a bit much. Well, I don't know. Surely total defeat? I mean, I don't think that you need to have like a complete binary win. It's a propaganda channel. I mean, we'll have to see what happens, right? Yeah, I don't know. And China Observer, News and Analysis, and China often with a critical perspective towards CCP. I think that really, I mean, if you're taking a critical perspective against a totalitarian government, that doesn't mean that you're biased. That means that you're not biased. Like, that's what I think. I mean, I find it to be kind of ironic that, like, it's people like, oh, well, this is, wow, they're being critical towards the CCP. They're biased. Yeah, there it is. And how do you defeat the CCP when it's basically a dictatorship? Any ideas? I think that you don't have to beat people. All you have to do is create a situation where people end up beating themselves. If you create an economic situation that's bad enough for the people that are there, you're going to create unrest and turmoil that will destabilize them, and you won't have to do anything. That's what would happen, obviously. Like again, like I think that's what makes sense, right? I mean, like obviously that's what's going to happen. Let me go back over and I'll look at a few more of these here too, because yeah, it's been pretty crazy with like all this that's happened. And sure, what about North Korea? Well, North Korea is being I think North Korea is awful, right? I mean, isn't their quality of life terrible? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I would not be surprised if you had, like, a massive North Korean revolution that happened at any time. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if in, like, a week or a month from now, they just finally revolted. They can't. They can't until it happens. You'd be surprised. It's not realistic? Okay. All right. And they'll revolt copium. So a lot of you guys are thinking about it from the dichotomy of North Korean, like the poor people revolting. I don't think that's what would happen. I think it would be people in the military that would revolt against the other people in the military and the current leadership. That would be like, usually revolutions are not led from the poor people against the rich people. Usually it's led from a group of rich people against another group of rich people. That's almost always what happens. You have to flee South Korea? Yeah, exactly. And so that would be hard? I don't really think so. I swear those revolts get the children taken away and taken out for that. It would have to be military heads. The poor have no influence or power at all. Yeah, I know. China would come and stop it. It depends on what happens, right? It kind of already happened with the amount of military defections. Starving to death is hard too. Yeah, but like if like the people there don't really have, like, they don't have weapons, they can't really fight back or doing anything like that. Yeah, they do overwhelming numbers. I agree with you on everything, but they aren't doing that. It's impossible. They don't know an outside world at all. Yeah, but the people that are in the leadership of the military do. And if there's enough talk of fighting back and doing something like that, they could easily, I think that it's very easy to just simply bomb an area, right? I mean, if they just go and they shoot somebody or a couple of people, then that basically is it. Especially if they shoot the main guy. Like, everybody thinks this is impossible to happen. It could absolutely happen. Like, really, like, it could absolutely fucking happen. And it's crazy to think that it can't. You doubt it? Yeah, it's unlikely. But I'm saying that, like, yeah, how did people revolt before the internet, of course? Yeah, of course. And all military people are picked by Z and constantly purged, like, monthly for the past 100 years. They have been. Well, I think then that kind of, like, that strengthens my argument again about them saying, like, if North Korea, the only reason why North Korea is able to exist in the state that it is because it's being propped up by a larger company or country like China, then if China doesn't have that opportunity, then wouldn't they be in a very bad position because they don't have the advantage that North Korea does in the same way? So yeah, no, I don't think that really makes the same sense.